The following opinions are solely those of BoatTEST.com and its test captain.
The Riviera 72 Sport Motor Yacht has been carefully designed to serve a number of different purposes without compromising any of them. First, she's a world-class sport fishing convertible that concedes nothing to boats specialized for that purpose, but are not well suited for much else. Secondly, she can entertain an owner's guests as well as most any flush-deck motor yachts her size, and with 6 socialization venues, she's better at it than many. Third, she's a comfortable family cruiser for near-shore water sports activities such as scuba diving, yacht club cruises, day picnics, and excursions. Finally, because of her prodigious fuel capacity, robust displacement, high bow, low center of gravity, and owner-operator amenities, she can also be a world cruiser and go toe-to-toe with the best names in that category. First, let's examine her basic specs. Her length overall is 78 feet 3 inches. Her actual hull length from stem to transom is 72 feet 3 inches. Her max beam is 19 feet 8 inches. Her underwater depth includes props and is 6 feet 5 inches. Her air draft is 24 feet 1 inch. Her displacement dry is 120,361 pounds, and fully laden with her optional fuel tank, it's over 141,000 pounds. She carries 2,378 gallons of fuel standard, and her optional 396-gallon tank brings her max fuel load to 2,774 gallons. She carries 225 gallons of fresh water and has a 159-gallon holding tank. We tested the 72 Sport Motor Yacht on a 70-degree day with light chop. Our vessel was powered by optional 12V 1900 horsepower MAN diesels driving through twin-disc, quick-shift V-drives to straight shafts and 5-bladed props. With the optional fuel tank and a 50% load of water, 6 people on board and optional equipment added such as the Seakeeper 16 gyro, we estimated that the vessel weighed 143,723 pounds. At wide open throttle, which was 2,370 RPMs, we reached the top speed of 33.7 knots. Fuel consumption figures were fairly linear until approaching displacement speeds. At 2,000 RPM, we recorded 26.9 knots, burning 131 gallons per hour for a range of 512 nautical miles. But most people will choose to cruise at 1,700 or 1,500 RPM, where the boat goes 22 and 17 knots respectively. Many of Riviera's customers will want to range the Pacific. In fact, large boat owners in both New Zealand and Australia often summer in Fiji, which is from 1,500 to over 1,700 nautical miles away from these two countries. At displacement speeds, the Riviera turns into a long-distance cruiser without missing a beat. At 11.1 knots and 1,000 RPM, we were only burning 19.6 gallons per hour for a range of 1,421 nautical miles. At 8.5 knots, at 700 RPM idle speed, she burns just 6.4 gallons per hour for a range of 3,333 nautical miles. Few single-engine, low-horsepower trawlers or long-range cruisers can go that far. American sport fishermen might want to cruise to Mexico or South America in search of action. Either way, they can do it non-stop. For those who like to impress their buddies when a fishing tournament gun fires, we recorded hole shot times of 13.6 seconds to 20 miles per hour and 21.4 seconds to 30. These are good times for a 137,000-pound boat. Sound readings at mid-cruising speeds were 67 to 68 decibels, which is about as much as a quiet conversation. Her hydraulic bow and stern thrusters are remarkably powerful, and she could turn on her own axis with the speed of a much lighter boat. Docking was a non-event. The Helm was designed for an owner-operator, and as such, everything about it has been made as easy as possible to handle. Visibility from the helm is excellent, and while the stern can't be seen, there are 2 rear control stations to handle that. To the right of the helm is a walnut-covered panel which brings the most important controls close to hand. Here we find the engine control binnacle, joystick, autopilot, and nav screen controller. The twin-disc quick-shift binnacle has a controller so the captain can select the best gear setting for cruising, going fast, or trolling. To the left are the Humphrey Interceptor tabs that work automatically to achieve the optimum trim setting. Our test boat had 3 24-inch nav screens, but 4 smaller ones can be fitted. A C-zone is located on the dash between the seats. This is one of the things that simplifies the running of the boat for an owner-operator, as we can monitor virtually everything on the boat and control a lot of it right from this station. It has connectivity to a supplied iPad, and Riviera has spared no expense in equipping the helm with 2 identical commercial-grade Norsap helm seats, which electrically adjust fore and aft and up and down. The list of standard equipment that Riviera has installed on the boat is a long one and includes an autopilot, intercom to the galley and engine room, cameras all around the boat, C-zone monitor and control, standard joystick in 2 locations, VHF radio, and much more. When the captain wants to switch to the standard stern control station, it's just a few steps. This station overlooks the cockpit, making it equally well suited for docking and backing down on a catch. Whether backing into a slip or moving close to a port side dock, just small moves of the joystick are all that are needed to activate the main engines that will work in conjunction with the bow and stern thrusters. Twin Disc provides a screen that tells the operator what the two main propellers and the two thrusters are doing. Represented on this screen is lots of information, both in analog and digital form. Here, the arrows are pointing to the port and starboard engine RPM, and note that they show 699 and 698, which is idle for this boat. Now see the arrows pointing at the RPM in direction of the main engine props, and we can see that the left one is turning at 42 RPM and the right one at 44 RPM. In this image, the arrows indicate which direction the thrusters are moving the boat, and here they're pointing in opposite directions, at 27% power for the bow thruster to port and 30% power for the stern thruster to starboard. Note that the main props are astern, with the port prop turning at 12 RPM and the starboard prop turning at 46 RPM. In this image, we see that the mains and the thrusters are all in opposition to each other, and the system is tied to a GPS, which issues digital instructions to maintain station. It's this kind of sophisticated combination of modern technology which makes the owner operation as easy as a twist of a joystick. Our test boat had the optional third joystick mounted on the starboard side of the cockpit, with excellent views aft and along the starboard side. If needed, the captain can quickly reach the bottom of the stairs from the flying bridge where the port side door leads to the foredeck. And this area is just as easy to reach from the cockpit on the starboard side. The side decks are 12 inches to 13 3/4 inches wide, the bulwarks are 12 inches high, and the safety rails go from 28 inches to 32 3/4 inches high. Proper ground tackle comes standard, which includes a 117-pound polished stainless steel ultra anchor, 328 feet of 1/2 inch galvanized chain, an ultra anchor swivel, a safety strap, and safety harness. The windlass is controlled by a wand in the port locker and by controls at the helm where there's a chain counter. Also in the port locker is a high pressure hose for washing the chain and anchor. The starboard chain locker is large enough for a person to enter to untangle the chain. Now, let's go back to the cockpit and inspect the engine room. The entrance is hidden by this clever design which raises up to reveal the hatch and stairs to the heart of this beast. Looking forward, we find the optional 1900 horsepower MAN 12V diesels. Looking aft, we see that the headroom ranges from 6 feet 5.5 inches to 6 feet 8 inches, and there's 27.5 inches between the engines. Air is brought into the engine room through port and starboard commercial-grade demisting vents to take out the salt spray to reduce corrosion in the engine room. There's a huge exhaust fan to lower the ambient running temperatures, safety rails are in front of the engines, and man controls and gauges are hung from the overhead. In front of the engines are the massive twin-disc quick-shift V-drives with power takeoffs for the windlass and thruster hydraulics. Above is a 17 kW Onan generator. Behind the engine is a 29 kW Onan generator, which allows the owner to switch off to either generator to best balance the load, or turn them both on when guests are aboard and the electrical demands are high. By the watertight door forward to the crew quarters are sight gauges for the vessel's two main fiberglass wing tanks. C-Zone also monitors fuel levels, but we like the physical check, particularly 1,000 miles offshore. They're at about 2,500 liters each here. There's a crossover hose for the wing fuel tanks, and fuel can be pumped from one tank to another. There's an opening safety gate by each engine's V-drive shafts. A second safety measure is a polished stainless steel plate that will keep hands and feet from hitting the moving shafts, but they also obscure the sea strainers and make opening them very difficult. The gold-colored device seen buried in the bottom of the boat is a custom-made C-Torque shaft system. The C-Torque couples the output shaft from the marine gears to the Aquamet 22 drive shafts, which are encased in tubes and immersed in oil. Thrust bearings in the C-Torque housing are bolted to the traverse frames and transmit force to those frames and the stringers of the boat, not to the engine, as is done on most boats. The result is significantly reduced vibration and noise. It also eliminates engine alignment problems and the need for maintenance of shaft cutlass bearings on the struts. Seen here at the left is one of the two alternators on each of the main engines. In the center is one of the 4 engine mounts on the engine. Note the red alignment marks on the bolts and mounting plate. This will alert observant owners if and when the bolts have backed off. We've seen this done before, but what we haven't seen before is Riviera's system of checking the torque on every hose clamp on the boat. Look closely. Each boat has a manifest that has the precise torque, not more, not less, that needs to be applied to each stainless steel hose clamp everywhere on the boat. When the clamp has been torqued to the specific requirement, the installer puts a red dot on the clamp head. Then it's checked by the QC personnel, and if it's been correctly torqued, a yellow dot is put on the band. The lowly, relatively inexpensive hose clamps on the through-hull fitting is one of the most critical safety devices on any boat, and Riviera uses best practices here. There's room to get by the front of the engine, but getting outboard to check things will be challenging. Abaft the engine room is the Lazarette, under the cockpit sole, which has 4 hatches. The outboard 2 are draining insulated fish boxes, but the center 2 lead to the Lazarette, which in the case of our test boat was fitted with a Seakeeper 16 gyro stabilizer. Once inside, we see the steering gear and the Glendinning cable master. The Lazarette is large with crawling headroom, and there's room for a high-capacity water maker, which this boat needs if making long-distance cruises. Every motor yacht needs a tender, and the bow of the Riviera has been designed to take a 13-foot rib. To port is a standard low-profile 1,200-pound hydraulic davit and a dedicated plug for charging the battery. Well, as we've seen, the Riviera 72 Sport Motor Yacht is a capable cruiser for short or long cruises. She's well built, high quality, and great care has been taken to install premium equipment using best practices. And she has many attributes. The design amenities and equipment details make her quite manageable for the typical owner-operator who, these days, has a variety of boating interests and is not looking for a one-trick pony. In that manner, she clearly delivers with multiple venues that offer a wide range of uses. But that's another video. Be sure to look for it. For now, this is my full performance evaluation. For BoatTEST.com, I'm Captain Steve. We'll see you on the water.